Dopamine detoxing. This is probably the real life limitless pill. The problem is no one is doing this properly. Everyone is failing and it is not working. I'm someone who's been full dopamine detoxing for over 11 months now. I haven't consumed any online entertainment for over 11 months. It's worked for me because I've done things differently to how people usually approach dopamine detoxing. So I'm going to discuss why people are failing with dopamine detoxing and how you can change this in your favor to leverage such a powerful tool, the real world limitless pill, and do this in a way that is sustainable for the long term. First problem is that people think of this as a short-term solution. I hate the word detoxing because a detox implies a period of time that you're removing something. It implies that I can do something for 30 days and then I'm cleansed, I'm reset, and I can just go back to my old ways. But if you do that, you're not changing anything. There's no long-term behavioral change. You're just doing something for 30 days and then going back to your old habits. You're just going to reinforce the bad behaviors that you originally had, and it's not going to benefit you whatsoever. I think this is the number one problem that people have, is thinking, I'm going to do a detox. It's going to be a 30-day detox. And then they get to the end of the detox and they probably had, in fairness, a very, very good 30 days. They were probably super locked in. They probably noticed that their concentration levels were better. Their attention span was way better. They unlocked a ridiculous amount of time. But then the 30 days are up and they feel really good. They probably have very high dopamine levels for everything. And then they go, all right, the detox is done. Let's get back to scrolling. Let's get back to the video games. Let's get back to the Netflix. And all that happens is the Netflix, the video games, the scrolling feel really good for a week. And then you're back to where you were. You've gone through all that effort to have a productive month, but the whole detox thing, the idea that you can just get rid of everything, you can reset your brain and you'll be all good, it's not going to work like that. The second thing is relying on willpower. A lot of people approach this, they go, all right, 30-day dopamine detox. We ready? 3, 2, 1, go. And they go from someone who was scrolling, they were gaming all the time, they were watching a bunch of TV shows, they were watching a bunch of politics, followed a bunch of sports teams, they were doing all this stuff, to doing nothing, to just going cold turkey on absolutely everything. And that works really well for 2 days. And then they go, oh, what do I do now? My life is completely different to how it used to be. I'm not used to this change. This is too much. This is too hard. Maybe I'll scroll a bit. Maybe I might re-download Clash of Clans. Maybe I might play a bit of PlayStation. And then you're back to square one. Fantastic. You lasted 2 days. Or for the David Goggins out there, you lasted 2 weeks. Not going to work long term. Willpower is the worst thing that you can possibly rely on. It is the lowest leverage behavior that you can possibly do to try and make genuine behavioral change. Not very smart. Third problem I see people run into is not creating environmental changes. If you just think, okay, I'm going to go into this and I'm going to have the exact same everything, I'm just going to stop. Probably not going to work, right? Your technology, everything is set up to distract you. Everything is set up to get you funneled towards doing these cheap dopamine, highly impulsive behaviors. That's why you're addicted to them in the first place, because they're incredibly easy to do and incredibly enjoyable. So if you just decide, I'm not going to change my environment at all, I'm not going to delete anything from my phone, I'm not going to throw anything out, I'm not going to do anything, I'm just going to stop, not going to work. You have no skin in the game, nothing about your environment's changed, it is as easy as ever to access the things that you don't want to access. You're relying on willpower, good luck. Good luck, it's probably not going to work. So how do we fix this? How do we create long-term behavioral change? How do we create genuine changes to our dopamine levels, to our focus, to our concentration, to just getting a crazy amount of time back? How do we get all these things to stick, to properly stick? Well, I call this dopamine rewiring. The reason I call it dopamine rewiring is because we're fundamentally rewiring our brain, rewiring our reward centers to want to do things that are moving us towards our goals, not cheap things. A dopamine detox for me is like a 30-day thing that you do and you're done with and then you're back to square one. Dopamine rewiring is about creating lasting, genuine change. First thing we need to do is shift our thinking from short-term to long-term. If you're thinking, maybe I'll do like a 30-day detox challenge, and what's going to happen after the 30 days? Maybe that's great if you need to get something done in 30 days and just go back to your normal life. But if you're trying to create an environment, if you're trying to create a character, if you're trying to create a mind that's conducive to huge goals, huge potential, that can't be done in 30 days. What goal are you going to accomplish in 30 days? Nothing massive, nothing astronomical. We need to be shifting our thinking from a short-term quick fix to long-term thinking. Now, this is a difficult thing to do. And the reason I know it's a difficult thing to do is you're doing this in the first place, probably because you can't focus on tasks very well, probably because you have a poor attention span, probably because you don't have a whole lot of time. You've probably created a mind, created a way of thinking that's centered around short-term impulsive thinking. So of course you think, let me have a 30-day thing that's just gonna fix everything. Because everything in your environment, everything in your life is centered towards quick impulsive things. But if you want quick impulsive things, if you want short-term solutions, you're gonna get short-term results. You're not gonna achieve very much. Shifting the thinking towards long-term thinking gives you bigger goals. It's a big runway to accomplish big things. So shifting our thinking from short-term to long-term, absolutely the first thing you have to do. Second thing is to remove things slowly. So fundamentally, dopamine detoxing or dopamine rewiring would be removing online entertainment, removing quick, easy dopamine. Rather than doing a 30-day detox and getting rid of everything at once, we want to get rid of things slowly. If you're doing this by yourself, I would recommend no more than one thing per month. You got to sit down there and go, okay, what am I spending the most time doing? What is the most cancerous thing in my environment right now? Okay, it's probably scrolling TikTok. For the first 30 days, all I'm going to do is focus on removing TikTok. Then after the 30 days are done, I go, okay, playing video games. That's probably the next biggest time drain, biggest dopamine drain in my life. Let me get rid of that. For 30 days, I just get rid of that. If you're doing this by yourself, no more than one per month. If you have support, if you have a support team around you, if you have accountability, people leading the way for you like we have in the Modern Monk community, then you can look at doing 2 things per month, maybe even 3. But if you're doing this by yourself, no more than 1 item per month. This links back into the first point here, because if you're someone who's trying to get rid of everything at once, this means you're the kind of person who wants quick, immediate results. And the reality is, if you're trying to make big, long-term behavioral change, but you're trying to get rid of everything at once, you've now significantly increased the risk that you're going to fail, significantly increased the likelihood that you're not going to stick with this. If you were thinking, okay, in a year's time, in 6 months' time, I want to get rid of everything, then you would think, okay, how could I do this in a way that makes it most likely that I can get rid of every single form of online entertainment in 6 months' time? You'd probably think, well, I probably wouldn't try and get rid of everything at once. And I probably wouldn't try and rely on willpower. I would probably try and slow it down. I'd probably try and remove one thing per month. And then by the end of those 6 months, I would have everything out of my life completely. So understand that if you're trying to do this long term, if you've shifted your thinking from short to long term, then you should also be thinking, how can I just focus on getting one thing out of my life at a time? Slowly creating behavioral change. This is how I'm going to see results in the long term. Third thing we can do here, in terms of specifically removing items from our life, let's remove through leverage, not willpower. In my community, we talk about the fortress system and specifically about removing online entertainment through the tiers of leverage. You have 5 tiers of leverage. I'll tell you that the first one, the number one highest leverage thing you can do is removing access. And the last lowest leverage activity that you can possibly do is use willpower. Let's focus on creating access prevention. If you're someone who's scrolling a bunch of TikTok, how can I get TikTok off my phone? How can I make it hard for me to re-download TikTok? How can I make it essentially impossible to use? How can I create as much access prevention as possible to prevent me from doing this? Because if I can create as much of a barrier between me and doing an action I don't want to do as possible, then no matter how much willpower I have or don't have, I can't do the action. Nothing else matters. If it's impossible for me to do the action, I can't do it. Boom. Set and forget, you're done, you don't have to worry about it. Rather than having 0 barriers, having nothing in place, having TikTok on your phone and sitting there and saying, I'm strong, I'm going to do this, I'm not going to use TikTok. How easy is it for you to just have a Sunday morning where you had a few too many drinks the night before and just go, maybe I'll watch a bit of TikTok now. Pretty easy, right? But if it's impossible for you to download the app, I don't care how many drinks you had on Saturday night, you're not going to be able to access TikTok You're not going to cave in when you're not at your strongest, highest level of willpower. You're actually going to create long-term behavioral change because you've created environmental change, because you've removed that piece of online entertainment, that piece of cheap dopamine through leverage, through the highest leverage thing that you can possibly do. Guys, if you want to know how to dopamine rewire, how to actually do this for yourself, you can join my free community. When you join that free community, we're going to create a fully customized dopamine rewiring program for you, and we're going to run through it with you, tell you everything you need to do. You ask us questions, we'll answer them, everything you need, 100% for free. If that's at all interesting to you, I'll leave a link in the description below for that. If you found this video interesting, then there's a bunch more videos on my YouTube channel related to dopamine rewiring, which you can check out. In fact, there's probably 2 here right now. So I will see you in one of those.